The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. He missed the complete that. He's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
After having a thrilling opener with a dead heat finish at Daytona and a difficult round under the boiling sun at COTA, the AMG Sportscar Challenge now gets ready to tackle the popular venue of Road America. With ample passing zones and 4 classes racing at once, there will undoubtedly be no lack of action out on track. Who will come out on top? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 3 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I am your host, Joe Peak. With me in the booth tonight, covering the prototypes and the GT2 cars, is Ayrton Ellis. And keeping us abreast of all the action in the GT3 and GTD classes is Bill Zahn. As always, our cameras have been provided by Dougie Beard and are directed by Amjad Yaman. Ayrton, the track here at Elkhart Lake has certainly become synonymous with sports car racing in its long history. Tell us a little bit about the circuit.
Thanks, Joe. Well, this is definitely one of my favorite tracks. It's just over 4 miles long, or 6.5 kilometers. It has 14 turns. It's a very long track. It has plenty of straights and fast corners as well. These guys are going to be running 60 miles around here in the HPD, McLaren, Corvette, BMW Z4, and Cadillac CTS V. And they're going to have to make at least one pit stop throughout the race since their fuel tank is limited to 60%. So it should be a pretty interesting race for these guys. And we also have a lap guide in the BMW for the viewers who want to see the track from a driver's perspective.
All right, we've got Kevin Brown behind the wheel of the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around Road America. Coming down the front stretch, turn 1 normally wouldn't be a passing zone with it being a fast right-hander, but the long pit straight means there's plenty of braking to give you a chance to get by. Watch out for drivers who drift wide though. 2 wheels in the grass can send you straight into the barrier to your right. From there we head downhill to 3. This is one of the more crucial corners to get right. The most important thing about it is the exit, because it's another long acceleration zone afterwards. Slow in, fast out was never more true. Now we've got the moraine sweep. These little bends mean you need to be very aware of the drivers around you, lest you drift into your competitor's lane. Coming up though is the left-hander of 5. This is a very popular overtaking spot, but also where many drivers outbrake themselves. Keep half an eye on your mirrors. Then it's uphill to 6. This crest makes it very easy to lock the brakes. It's also really blind. You don't see your turn-in until you're right on top of it. After that, we've got the hurry downs. Just a lift through that fast kink of 7, and we fly downhill to another potential passing zone. Turn 8 will see some guys make an ambitious move here or there. If you catch the guy in front of you sleeping, it's not out of the question to nab a position. Then we fly around the infamous carousel. Impatient drivers will get a terrible launch compared to the ones waiting on a feathered throttle. But if you get a run, you gotta be brave, because too wide through the kink is a crazy game of chicken. It's only a small lift, but go wide and there's mere yards on either side of the track before carbon fiber meets concrete. If an accident unfolds here in traffic, expect multiple drivers to end their day prematurely. From there, we straighten out the kettle bottoms and set up for Canada Corner. This is your last good spot in the lap to execute a pass. If we see a draft battle towards the end, guys will be looking to seal the deal here. Then there's 13A. It's blind, fast, and it requires a lot of commitment to get the most out of it. It immediately dumps you into the last turn, which has a tricky, curved braking zone. Once again, your exit speed is so much more important than your entry speed. Especially with this huge uphill and long front stretch, you need every inch of oomph your car has got. But that is a lap around Road America. So as we wait for the cars to complete their qualifying, all 4 of them are allowed out at once, although they've had quite a few hours actually to get a lap in. Let's take a bit of time before the green drops to talk about the championship, because this is actually the 3rd round, even though it's our first broadcast of this series. So we've had 2 races to try and get some points on the board. Bill, what is that looking like?
Yeah, and there's a lot to talk about as there's 5 different categories here. Let's start with our team standings. Now, Autobahn Motorsports West sits atop the chart with 133 points, and in part thanks to Billy Smith's pair of victories in the GTD class. Now, Team WFO is 14 points behind in the top spot, benefiting from a pair of GTD podiums by a driver who is apparently as fast as his name would indicate, A.J. Clark. I love that name. Talon Motorsports sits third, 36 points out of the lead. Big contributor here is Jim McGinnis with a first and a second in the GT3 class. Paul Lindsay's performance once again in the GTD division has a Sprint Squad Endurance Motorsports sitting fourth, 43 points out, and then tied for fifth, 48 points out, is Autobahn Motorsports East, and TMC iRacing tied for fifth. Now let's go ahead and look at the individual standings. We're going to start with the prototypes. Before we talk about these, though, we need to keep in mind that the individual championship allows for 2 dropped races. Because we only have 2 races so far, we don't really want to bring those drop races into the equation. But rest assured, as the season progresses, Simon and Poindexter and the GSRC Stat Boys back there locked away in the dark and smoke-filled bowels of the GSRC complex will take those drop races into account. But for right now, let's look at these things, how they stand, as is with what they've done, as what you see is what you get. Leading the prototype division of the Autobahn Motorsports West is John Ulmer. Danny Kane and Matt Quinn round out the top 3. Moving to the next division is the GT2 class. We see that Kevin Binkley of Excelsior Racing Team is well out in front. Unfortunately for Binkley, there has been little help for him from the other 3 divisions of his team, so despite Binkley's success, ERT sits 7th in the team standings. Dave Hill and Brett Trausen sit 2nd and 3rd respectively there. Moving to the next class, the aforementioned Jim McGinnis leads the way in the GT3 division with Talon Motorsports. Robbie Morrison and Mark Jabinski round out, currently sit in the place and show positions there. And the final division, Billy Smith II and A.J. Clark seem to be the class of the GTD field. Paul Lindsay sits a distance 3rd. Now, Joe, I know that was a lot of numbers, but I think all of that information is just going to whet everybody's appetite to see these guys mix it up on the track.
Absolutely. And just to confuse them some more with some more numbers here, in case you're curious about how the scoring works, they have 25 points for first place in each class, 22 points for second, 20 for third, 18 for fourth, 16 for fifth, 12 for sixth, 10 for seventh, 8 for eighth, that'll be easy to remember, 5 for ninth, and 2 points for 10th place. Everybody behind that does not score any points. However, with 4 different classes, there's not going to be too many people beyond 10th place in each class. And for the team standings, it's the highest 3 class finishers from each team scoring the points. Now, if you're wondering how the teams work, and Bill, did you explain this one? I apologize.
I did, but we can talk about it. It's really, really smart. Each team can have up to 1 driver in each class. So you can have 4 at the most, 1 in each class. There are some you can go with 3, and they take the top 3 results of the 4 squad drivers to get your totals each week. And so it's not only, and there's what's really neat about this, Joe, is they've put on what I'm calling a salary cap, where the squads have to be, there's a cap on iRacing of how really powerful your team is. So you just can't load up with aliens.
Absolutely. I believe that is 11,000 iRating for a 4-man team, and if you have only 3 people on your team, it is capped at 8,000. So for those familiar with iRacing and how it works, your iRating is taken into account to make sure, as Bill said, that you don't just get a whole super team of hot shoes winning all the points for you. So let's talk a little bit more about the circuit, some of the passing zones, some of the danger zones. Obviously, big passing places there in Turn 1 and Turn 5 and Canada Corner.
Yeah, those are all the corners right after the big long straights, and those are going to be good passing zones for in-class and out-of-class. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of traffic between these classes. There's 5 different cars, and the HPD is going to have to rummage through all these other slower GT2 and GT3 cars throughout the race. So those corners are going to be the best opportunities. Turn 1, Turn 5, and Canada Corner, which is a little dangerous. We've seen a lot of wrecks in other series happen there, so some of these drivers have to be careful, especially since this track is fairly narrow.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of an old school track in that way. There's just not a lot of racing room, but thankfully lots of opportunities to try and get by someone, and with all 4 classes out there, you're definitely going to have a few options to maybe produce a pick, as we like to call it in multi-class racing. Now, speaking of multi-class, there might be some people, Bill, who are not familiar with these different types of cars. Since you're covering our Proto and our GT2, tell us just a little bit about these two different classes that you're covering.
Yeah, well, actually, Ayrton's got the prototypes.
Oh, excuse me. Yes,
that's okay. Those are the fancy ones. Those are the ones you're not going to be able to buy in the showroom. The second division is the Corvettes. Then the GT3s there's two cars in that division. It's the McLarens and the BMWs are together, but it's still one class. And then the slowest class, but my favorite, the one that sounds the best, is the Cadillacs are racing down there in what they're calling the GTD class. And they may not be as fast, but man, they are fun to drive.
Apologies for that. I had actually decided who was covering what, and even I can't remember that. So, Ayrton, since you have the prototypes and the GT2s, tell us a little bit about those two.
Well, the prototype is definitely the fastest car. It's very fast, about 10 seconds faster than the Corvette, which is the second fast. So these guys, they're going really fast around the corners. They're going to have to deal with a lot of traffic, as I said earlier, with all these drivers. There's actually 13 HPDs, which is quite a lot. And then there's another 10 or so Corvettes in the GT2 class. So, I mean, the field actually overall is very packed, and the speed differential between the cars is fairly big between the top two classes, but then it gets a little tighter in the bottom half of classes as well.
Yeah, that's another thing that I was hearing from some of the drivers before this race, Bill, was that the Caddy and the GT3, depending on the length of some straightaways, can sometimes be mixing it up, it sounds like.
Yeah, and they were also working on their setups a lot. This is open setup, so these guys can tune it just the way they like. A lot of drivers were having trouble with cars being too tight in the middle of the corners. They've been working on trying to get it just right. And with this track, for a purpose-built racetrack, and I love this race course, but the walls are close, and attrition could really be a factor because if you get off a little bit, those walls show up real quickly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Some of the corners, especially such as the kink, which is very well known. Yeah, even in the real world, just drives fear into the heart of many a driver as we watch one of the HPDs spin it there going into turn 3. So, yeah, it's very easy to find the concrete on the outside of these walls. Canada Corner especially, if you just clip the grass, car can easily lose it into there. Now, Ayrton, we were talking a little bit about the fuel strategy. I understand that there is a limit on how much fuel these cars can take on.
Yeah, as I said in the track info, these cars are all limited to 60% of their full fuel tank, which means that they're going to have to make one stop throughout the race. It's probably going to be between the 25 and 35 minute mark, so roughly halfway. There shouldn't be too much variation in pit strategy, but definitely getting into that pit lane nice and fast and not losing too much time will be important for these guys.
Another thing, speaking of drivers having to worry about the walls and whatnot, and I need to confirm this, what I understand is that they have a 25 incident limit. If you're not familiar with incidents in iRacing, whenever a car puts more than half the car off of the track limits whenever they spin, excuse me, it was apparently is on the info tab. So yes, it is confirmed that we should have a 25 incident limit there. But whenever a car goes off track, or whenever they touch a wall, touch another car, whenever they spin the car, they are given a certain amount of incident points. And the reason they do that is to keep drivers a little bit in check, especially with off tracks, especially these high downforce cars, making sure that they are not simply taking advantage of certain areas where they could possibly gain an advantage.
And Joe, 25, I would not be surprised to see that come into play. That didn't seem like an excessive amount to me. That seemed like a pretty well thought out number.
Yeah, there was a lot of debate with drivers because they had apparently quite a few at the first round at Daytona, and then for Circuit of the Americas, which is sort of notorious for having off tracks everywhere because it's kind of a big parking lot in a way. Yeah. There was a lot of talk about, what's fair, and I believe that 25 is what they wound up coming to rest on. And it sounds like qualifying is wrapping up. I see the checkered flag is out. They've got the hot laps that they are on to try and finish, so anybody who has managed to cross the line before that checkered flag came out will be able to finish that lap. So we're going to wait for that to finish through, and thankfully we got a nice long lap to go through. 44, how many have we got? 46, 47 cars out on track. Incredible, guys.
It's going to be interesting. We talked before the race as they're about to go to their pace lap. With this long course, it's 4 miles long, but I think we are going to see lap traffic come into effect because those prototypes are, like Ayrton was talking, are so much faster than the caddies. It won't be long, even with a 4-mile racetrack, before they're looking at lap traffic.
Yeah, the slowest time that we have right now from the caddies is a 2:28.7, whereas the fastest time from the HPDs is a 1:52 flat. So, yeah, that is more than 30 seconds. So, with a 2-minute lap time within lap 3 or 4, they are going to be catching the Cadillacs here. That is going to be a long time, 60 minutes of trying to weave through 46 other cars out on track.
And Ayrton and I were talking about whether those prototypes are going to be able to pass the slower classes in the carousel. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Oh, it's going to take a brave driver, I think, to try and go around the outside of a caddy, especially towards the end of a pit stop stint, I would think, because the caddies tend to shred those tires a little bit if you abuse them.
Yeah, and passing lap traffic and multi-class racing in the HPT is much of an art. You see guys making very crazy moves on GT3 drivers, and you also see complaints about it too, but whichever prototype driver will manage to get around that traffic quickest will be able to gain a big advantage.
Especially since it's not just one class, it's really 4 classes, so even if you're coming up on slower traffic, you're not sure if a car ahead of you might be pulling out to pass the slower car if you're in the prototype, so it's tricky.
They have what's called an F3 box, which shows them who is in what class around them, so they'll have to keep their eyes on that. But qualifying is done, so let's try and run through that. Starting with the prototypes. On the overall pole is Jason DeVries, and he has a 152 flat, as we said. John Ulmer rounds out the front row, followed by Danny Kane in third. Then it's Brian Hawkins starting in fourth with a 153 flat himself. Matt Quinn starts in fifth, and Chance Kelly Ayrton starts in sixth.
Then in seventh is Mark Jubinski. In eighth place is David Sockrider. In ninth is Mark Kachowski. And then Armando Edwards is in 10th place. 11th is Scott Ford. 12th, Mark Schindel. And then Robert Jackman is going to be in 13th place to round up the HPDs.
Then we have Kevin Binkley starting on the pole for the Corvettes in the GT2 class. Troy Schuster starts in second there. And third, it's Paul Slavonic, Kyle Pitson starts in fourth. Then it's Dave Hill, Brian Herring, Dino Topic, and Robert Sklanka. And rounding out the Corvettes is David Henry, although I'm seeing Sheldon Woloshin scored below the other cars, so I guess they are not separated by class, so that'll be really interesting there. Meanwhile, let's go to Bill for the start of the GT3 class.
Oh, you've given me the hardest one to figure out there. Is it saying that it's John Paquin is going to be our pole sitter there?
That's what we're saying.
Okay. Jim McGinnis is going to be second. Bobby Morrison, Sam Bourne is going to be on the outside of the second row. Sheldon Wozalskin, oh, I'm sorry, help me out.
Woloshin, he's in the Corvettes.
Okay. Did I get that? So are we doing that one right? Are we got the right one there?
Sheldon Woloshin,
yes. Okay, I got it.
He's in
the
amongst
Corvettes.
the GT3s.
Okay, good. Leif Peterson then, David Hernandez, sorry, Dylan Francis, and Matt Owen. And I think we have a few more down here. We have Sidney Thomas, Larry Ford, David Fernandez, and rounding out the bottom two there are Joey Trungle and Darren Kuhn.
The highest qualifying of the caddies in the GTD class is Ross Booth, followed by Paul Lindsay, actually 2 rows back, I believe. He is definitely in amongst the GT3 cars, so that is going to be an interesting race for him. Then it's Brandon Postma, followed by AJ Clark, then Kurt Gross, Daniel Johnson starting in 40th overall, Tan Nguyen starting in 42nd overall, Brett Trozen starting in 43rd, Dale Green in 44th, and rounding out the field is Billy Smith II.
Yeah, so Joe, what we came to decide there is that these cars aren't divided by class on the grid. They're actually mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, which I guess kind of makes sense since some of the slower classes is a little bit faster than the car in front of them. So, you might as well put them where they are on pace. They have taken off. You can see that huge field heading around the first corner as they get ready to go around this long and winding circuit that weaves its way up and down hills, through trees, under bridges, such as the infamous Sargento Bridge you can see there, and now heading towards one of the best passing zones. And one of the interesting things, Ayrton, you can see right here, these straightaways kind of weave back and forth, and that's going to make it all the more difficult when trying to weave through this traffic.
Yeah, it also creates kind of a fine line between holding your line and blocking a little bit. If you're trying to hold that line and someone goes on the inside of you, and then you got that little turn in the straight, I mean, it's very easy to have contact. I've seen plenty of 3-wide scenarios where contact happens just because of that little turn in the straightaway, even though everyone's going full throttle.
Very, very tricky. Up under the Corvette bridge, cargo is very light up across that crest, so braking is going to be difficult. And then around the kink that leads into the hurry downs, not to be mistaken with the infamous kink, which is later on in the lap. And this is another place, Bill, that I've found sometimes if you're brave, if the other guy makes a mistake, you can make a pass here into the hurry downs.
Yeah, I think you need a mixture of bravery and talent to make that come through. I certainly wouldn't try it. I'm short on both accounts.
I thought you were going to say bravery and foolishness, but you took it in a much more positive direction than I was thinking as we watch the Corvettes now lead. And as you can see, this is another feature that you tend to see in the mixed class racing if you're new to this, that the different classes tend to try and separate so that they're not right on top of each other when the green flag falls. So that's why you've got these Corvettes way back. However, it looks like they're not going to separate the GT3 cars from those Corvettes. So I guess that is because they have one of the Corvettes in the midst of those cars. And same thing with the Caddies as they now work their way around the carousel. Very long corner, always going downhill. So we switch back to the HPDs as they exit the kink. Now heading through the Kettle Bottoms, which is very dark down through the trees there. And can't see very far actually through there with the cameras, you can see, as we have to have a couple cameras to try and catch them going through there as the woods go right up to the edge of the track and into Cannon Corner, which as we said is another excellent passing zone. Only a couple more corners, then we are going to get ready to go green for 60 minutes of round 3 of the AMG Sports Car Challenge. Jason DeVries is going to lead the way. Let's see if he can get himself a good start here, or if John Ulmer can challenge down into turn 1. It's going to be critical for these guys to try and get themselves ahead and get a gap before they start to come upon traffic. Pace car leading them up to the pit entry. He now dives off. DeVries leading the field. Green flag is out as he accelerates away, and he gets a very good start. John Ulmer has no answer. Same thing with Danny Kane. They all slide into single file for the top 4 as they head down into turn 1. Is anybody going to try and make any moves? Couple too wide through there. Looks like everybody's mostly clean, and it's good through there. Let's go back to the start of the Corvettes.
Yeah, they've already started. Kevin Binkley leading them away with a great start. Troy Schuster is following close behind as they head through turn 1 right now. It's still single file after that with the top 5 staying as having qualified. Paul Slavinik having a good slot in 3rd place as well.
What is the GT3 class looking like, Bill, with their start?
They kind of filed into position very nicely. John Paquin in 1st, McGinnis took over 2nd, Morrison in 3rd, and Sam Bowen in 4th place. Very clean in back here.
So it looks like everybody is running very patient, which is good to see with such a large field. You can just see the traffic jam coming down this long straight, down into turn 5. And once again, most everybody looking pretty single file into there, which is interesting. Seeing a bit of too wide action now back with some of the Cadillacs and GT3 cars. I thought I saw a car go off wide. That was one of the Caddies. Trying to see if I can figure out who that was.
Looking for him as well. I don't.
Not entirely sure, but in the meantime, now they are starting to really sort themselves out. Less and less cars trying to battle for position, settle in for this long race. Bit of a sprint race compared to motor's endurance racing, but still quite a bit of time to go. So let's hop back up here to these prototypes, see what's going on as we look at Ulmer working his way through the final corner.
Now, the interesting thing with these prototypes is that the top 3 qualifiers, DeVries, Ulmer, and Kane, were a whole second faster than Brian Hawkins in 4th. So I think these 3 guys are going to run away with it. They're like three that are, I mean, they're very close in time to all within 2/10 as well, so they're going to be battling out in the lead. And then the rest of the mid-pack for the prototypes are going to be battling separately.
What's interesting is back in the Cadillac division that we didn't talk about, the GTD, is Roth Booth is in the lead, but he's got really 6 cars in the class ahead of him, separating him from the next, from Paul Lindsay in second place. Booth is really fast in the Caddies.
And just behind them, there's a lot of action going on. Dylan Francis just getting by Sheldon Voloshin, who is a Corvette, so different class going on there between GT3, and now you're going to get to be able to see the difference in speed between these cars in a straight line as Voloshin absolutely blasts past Francis. And that's where it's going to be frustrating if you come across a slow Corvette and you were in the GT3 cars. Just behind him, some action going on. Matt Owens being challenged by Sidney Thomas in the BMW, not able to get it done. This puts him under threat from Larry Ford. Ford closes down into turn 3, but not able to take a peek in, just not close enough.
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed classes there. The Booth is well ahead of these guys, like I said, ahead of Lindsay. But these guys back here in the BMW are really mixing it up.
Without a doubt, as we watch Booth in that Canada-themed cars, just a bit more action behind him in the GT3s. Whoa! A lot of action between Sidney Thomas, Larry Ford, Paul Lindsay, Brandon Postma, a couple different classes in there. Larry Ford on the inside of Paul Lindsay, and he manages to get past that Cadillac. Those guys, however, are not racing for position. He is just trying to get out of his way.
The guy who's trying to make a move here is Postman, that kind of white and blue colored caddy there, trying to work his way up. Has Lindsay ahead of him now for second place in the class.
You can see on your screen Postman sitting in third there, working their way around the carousel. Now accelerating, very critical point to get on the power. Coming up to the to the kink. This is one of those places. Yeah, really just. And we are going to check on Danny Kane because we're wondering if he's having issues. No, it looks like he is perfectly fine at the moment. He is sitting in third behind Ulmer right now in the prototypes. He had a bit of a connection issue, we understand, but looks like that is back under normal circumstances, so won't have to sweat too much at this point.
Yeah, the interesting...
Our top 3, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the interesting thing about these top 3 is actually John Ulmer has gotten the pole in the past 2 races at Daytona and Coda. And he won Coda, but not Daytona. De Vries won Daytona, but this is the first time that Ulmer has gotten beaten in the qualifying, and that was by 2/10 as well. So De Vries looking really good for the start of this race.
Ever so close up at the top. And now I'm curious, Ayrton, if you're someone like Jason Green and the draft is keeping your competitors right up on you like that, do you try and play the rabbit? Do you try and stretch it out? Or you just settle in and do your laps? I mean, what's the strategy here for someone like Jason?
I think all you really can do is settle in and try to hit those consistent laps, try not to make any mistake, and give an opportunity for the guy behind to get a pass on him.
In the meantime, Ulmer still just holding station. Same thing with Danny Kane in that red, white, and blue HPD sitting in third behind these two as we look out the rear spoiler of De Vries heading up the steep uphill into the start-finish line, completing lap 3, now into lap 4. Let's hop back to the Corvettes in GT2, see what action is going on. Right now, Kevin Binkley still leading the way for those guys. And it is quite mixed up out there, it seems. At least towards the back of the GT2 cars. But Troy Schuster definitely keeping Kevin Binkley under threat here on as they approach the 4th lap for the Corvettes. And you can see all that time ago that we saw our lead class get across the line. Just now, our leaders and the Corvettes are coming across and heading up that same hill. But only about a second between Schuster and Binkley for that first position, and then it's a little ways back for Paul Slavonic? No, yes, Paul Slavonic.
Yeah, both these guys have gotten poles so far this season, but only Binkley has managed to win. So far he's been a little bit more consistent on the long run of the races. So let's see if Schuster might be able to change that and get a win and pressure Binkley for this one.
And we got some information. I'm not sure if this is old, but apparently Postma was off in Canada, but he recovered without incident. So he is able to continue on. And that, again, is in the GTT class. A lot for us to keep track of here up in the booth today. So let's head down to the GT3 with Bill, where it looks like John Paquin is leading the way, and we're certainly familiar with that, him being in first from another series that he ran.
Yeah, this has been very peaceful. In fact, these top 5 guys have just been putting in the laps. They've held position since the very beginning with Paquin in first. Now McGuinness has the wins. You see McGuinness being challenged right now by
looks like Mark Schindler. He's in a prototype.
There's a prototype there, so he's a lap down. That's what's he's kind of mixed up the party there. There's 5 guys who've really been behaving. Sam Bourne in third position, Robbie Morrison in fourth, and then I think Leif Peterson is really your 5th driver there. Now they have a couple slower cars that have from the faster classes that have mixed it up, but those guys were running nose to tail for a long time.
Yeah, in fact, I think there's only 4 or 5 of the GT3 cars before you get to the leader of the Cadillacs, and I believe there's 10 GT3 cars out there. So that is a testament to Ross Booth and the Canada-themed machine there. I'm trying to remember the name of their team. It's trying to look it up on the screen. It looks like TMC Racing, actually.
Yeah, Booth has really been putting on a show. He is the class of that field now. He doesn't have any victories this year. I'll go ahead and see if I can see if he's actually raced before. This will really help his team out.
Definitely. He's looking incredibly dominant right now. He's got a little ways back to the next one in his class, which is Paul Lindsay sitting in second. Oh, go ahead.
John Ulmer actually went off on the carousel. He didn't hit anything, but he lost a position to Danny Kane, dropped back to 3rd place.
Looking at the replay on that one. Here as we pull it up, heading under the Speedville Bridge. Goes just a little wide. Ooh! And look at just how that grass sucks the car outwards when you don't have that grip. Good on him for keeping his head, though, and being able to just bring it on without incident. Oh, and look at this, trying to put laps on the GT3 traffic as the car ahead of him has to put a lap on, trying to see which McLaren that is that he just went by. That was Danny Kane, by the way, who was putting a lap on that car. And that was Darren Kuhn, who he had put a lap on there. So Ulmer has some catching up to do after holding on to second for the early laps of this race. Has lost a little bit of ground. Let me see what that gap is. Looks like it is about 1.1 seconds between Kane and Ulmer. But the critical thing in this, I think, Aaron, is that Kane is now about 2.8 seconds back from Jason DeVries, so he might have broken that draft.
Yeah, in that last lap, they had to pass 2 or 3 cars, and that Danny Kane really got unlucky. He got right behind them in the wrong spots and actually lost a lot of time. So John Ulmer seems a little close to Kane, but Kane lost a lot of time to DeVries.
So we've been following what different cars have been trying to make their way through traffic and such. Let's go and find ourselves a good battle on track. I'm looking actually at the GT2 lead, and that is Kevin Binkley and Troy Schuster.
Yeah, Schuster's sucked right back onto the back of Binkley so far.
Well, just look at how he's closing down the front straight, especially under braking. That few extra miles an hour that the draft gives, really absolutely sucking Troy Schuster up to the rear spoiler of Binkley. Now that gap is down to about 0.3, 0.2. Oh, he's got an excellent run down the Moraine sweep. I think this is going to be a pass. Let's see what Binkley decides to do. He holds position on the outside. Heading down into turn 5. It looks like Schuster's going to be just a little bit past him into the braking zone. He holds the apex, and Binkley gives it up. Excellent pass from Schuster there to take the lead in the GT2 class.
I see a few prototypes in the pits with a lot of damage, so I'm going to check what happened.
So as he is taking a look at that, I'm looking at my time and scoring, seeing if we can find someone else who's quite close to each other with a good battle going on track.
I actually found a Chance Kelly spun on the exit turn 1 and hit the wall.
Oof. So as we watch him come out of the pits, was that spinning onto the inside wall? Because I know I've done that.
He spun, touched the outside, spun right into the inside wall. Good thing about this series is that they get one free repair, so he waited for the tow and got a new car, but he's going to be a lap down now to the HPD leaders.
He towed from turn 1? Because that's going to be a long, long wait.
Yeah, he was in there for a while.
Oof, that definitely hurt him. So as we look at the battle for P7, here in the HPDs, whoa, lots of cars working their way through. That is Scott Ford, who has just gotten past Mark Krudowski, and now Krudowski is challenged for the win. Oh, and Krudowski spins! Manages to keep it off the wall, keep that precious arrow in perfect condition. But that is a lot of spots lost for Mark Krudowski. He is now down into 10th. When he crossed the line last time, he was in 7th, so that's 3 spots in a single lap. As we watch the replay, we were just coming around on him. We talked about the car going light up there, Ayrton.
Yeah, it looks like he just lost grip under braking.
Well, it sounds like that battle for P1 is not over as traffic has brought Kane up onto the rear of DeVries, but Kane has to go around the outside of Larry Ford. Almost shoves him off track. Ford's not going to be happy about that one. I'm sure if his driver could wave his virtual fist at him, he probably would be about this point. And oh my goodness, if we can get a wide shot at the difference now between those cars, that one incident between Kane and Larry Ford has put a significant gap, about 2 seconds between DeVries and Kane.
And Ulmer's dropped back a lot as well. He's now 5 seconds behind Kane.
You know, I wonder if Ulmer, it could have been traffic, but do you think that possibly he damaged his arrow going off track that other point?
I don't think so. I mean, these guys, they're hitting so much traffic every few corners. I think he's just getting unlucky. That's the disappointing thing about the prototype, is that it's less about racing, but more about trying to get through all that multi-class traffic.
Especially in racing like this, as Ulmer now works past Larry Ford on the inside, coming into turn 6 there. So we are now up to lap 8, but this is a timed race and we have about 45 minutes left, so they are a quarter of the way through this thing. Sounds like we've got a battle going on for position 2 in the GT3 cars. Let's jump over to that.
It's McGuinness and Bowen.
And that's coming down the kettle bottoms. Bowen not quite close enough to make anything happen at this point, as you see McInnes in the white and blue car, Owen in the yellow and black machine. Nice and tidy run from Bowen through Canada corner, though. That's allowed him to gain just a little bit of ground. If he keeps that up, he's going to continue. But no, he misses the apex coming through 14A. Or is it 14B? I can never remember the difference between those.
Now, those guys are running 2 and 3, and they have ahead of them. They have Paquin in sight.
Definitely, and we're looking at Kurt Gross, who was in second. Sounds like he got into some trouble. We're going to look at the replay, see what happened to Kurt. This is in the GTDs. Coming up into the kink. Oh my, almost goes over. And then goes back onto the track and he gets hit very hard. I'm not sure who that was, but then a number of other cars had to take evasive action there. We're going to look at it one more time. That was a white and blue Cadillac. I'm trying to figure out who that was. And he got tipped into that by an HPD, it looks like, coming up behind him. He was minding his own business. Oh, yeah. As we watch it from the chopper view. Got hit twice. A McLaren runs into him. Just absolute bad day for Gross. He needed that spare car something fierce.
Oh, we got a car spinning. Hang on. Looks like a prototype.
Do you have a name of the driver?
I'm looking for it.
Sometimes it's tough.
I'll see if I can find it for you guys.
All right. Meanwhile, we did have a battle for P4, it seems, in the HPDs. That is Mark Jabinski we're looking at, trying to run down Brian Hawkins as he weaves to the inside of a McLaren. Putting another lap on him, that's not going to help him through the carousel. But now they head for the kink. Trying to gain ground for this fearsomely fast corner. Pulling in with that draft as he reels in Hawkins down to Canada corner. Just not going to have enough time as they hit the braking zone. But really closes up under braking. Oh, and he puts 2 tires off into the dirt, and that's going to lose all that ground that he made up.
I was just about to say he closed in a lot there and then just went a little wide.
A little bit over-eager on the brakes, perhaps, for Mark Jabinski. The black, white, and red car on your screen sitting in 5th position. And definitely lost quite a bit of ground on Hawkins. He's going to have to do a lot of hard work to get that back, or maybe hope for some traffic, which they've got in the form of Robbie Morrison and the BMW just ahead of them.
He's probably going to hit him on the straight.
So as we're waiting on Bill to maybe fill us in and see if we could figure out who the HPD that spun was. Bill, do you have anything?
I could not find it. It happened so quickly. He got back on the track, so I wasn't able to see it. But he didn't lose a lot of time, and it didn't really cost me any position.
All right, and we're hearing something about Armando Edwards. Oh, it was Armando Edwards who crashed there. Apologies. We have a lot of information flying at us. We do have a spotter, Kevin Brown, helping us out today, and he was unfortunately being slightly ignored at some points as my attention is a little bit all over the place. But let's focus on the action on track here. Let's see what is going on between drivers as far as battles go. I see Sheldon Woloshin is relatively close to... Oh, that's Christopher Sherburne. I don't think he's... No, he is in the same class, actually. That is the GT2 cars. They are both battling for 9th position. Jubinski just went by Sherburne, which slowed through the carousel. That allowed Woloshin to try and close in. But once again, just not close enough as they break for Canada corner, just ahead of them. More traffic with Sam Boren being passed by those HPDs. Let's see if he's going to get away in the way of Sherburne coming up to this final corner. Looks like he might not catch him in time, so he might get lucky here. Reeling him in slowly with that draft, but with the draft of Boren helping him along, that's going to give just that little bit of boost to Sherburne. And now he's going to put a car between himself and Woloshin through turn 1. Oh, but you can see the braking power of those GT3 cars as he almost gets into the back of Sherburne. And we have some information on Jubinski having some action. Not sure what happened there. He half spun the car coming through turn 3, and Brian Hawkins, with a nicely done move around the outside, keeping aware, has gained a position. Works his way past the Cadillac of Kurt Gross. And Hawkins is currently sitting in 4th position. So, while we're on the HPDs, let's jump up, Ayrton, to Danny Kane. Oh, and just has to squeeze by the Corvette of Kyle Pitson.
Yeah, this is more like they just keep on going back and forth like a yo-yo. Kane, he closes in and then hits traffic, and boom, he's another 2-3 seconds back, and then he closes in again. It's really hard for him to stick onto DeVries. If he could keep the draft and manage to get a move when DeVries gets held up, that would be his best chance.
And while that has separated them, Dino Topic got compromised, which means that Kyle Pitson is right on the back of him. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to use the slipstream to try and get close enough for a pass, but as they come down to turn 1, he is within 2/10 of a second. Now braking for this corner. Just not close enough, but he continues to get a good exit and loses a little bit of ground under braking for turn 3, but Pitson really hounding Dino at this point.
Might get a run here.
He's a little bit closer than he was on the exit of the final corner, so yeah, It's a slightly shorter straightaway than the front stretch, so I don't know if he's going to have enough time. He's taking a look down to the inside. Now braking for turn 5. Dino goes defensive. That's going to compromise his corner just slightly. However, Pitson just misses the apex, and they remain about dead even as they head to 6. So we're getting a call from some information about GTD and GT3, so let's look at what action is happening over there. Bill, we haven't talked to you in a little bit.
Well, they're being behaved. I mean, you got to go where the action is, and Paquin's still out in front, running comfortably as you see a couple cars go by him right now. The prototype's going by, and now McGuinness is making a move. He still has him in sight when pit stops come into play. McGuinness has him in striking distance. We have a spinner. There we go.
There's a car on track. That was just after turn 5.
Dino Topic?
That is that is
Robert
Schlenka.
Yep.
Robert
Schlenka.
Schlenka. Excuse me. My apologies.
Dino Topic also spun right before the carousel hit the wall.
Ooh. Was it serious damage? Can you take a look for us?
He spun around. Just his nose tapped it. Not serious damage, but he lost position to Pitson, who he was battling with.
And you can see Dino on screen right now letting some of the HPDs by. Looks like that's a battle just going by him actually right now.
The Hawkins, Jabinski got back around him.
Well, as we just take a quick glance at that GTD lead, Ross Booth is actually now followed, or not directly on track, but he doesn't have anybody between them scoring-wise, by Paul Lindsay. Oh, and he's actually followed really closely.
Yeah, Lindsay has really made a nice run on Booth. Booth had a big lead. Lindsay has really closed him down. So Booth and Lindsay, they're running 1-2, and then AJ Clark is quite a ways back, but gotta love that name.
I take it you're an AJ Foyt fan.
And Jim Clark. It's all in one.
Absolutely. Oh, there you go, yeah. So we hop back up to the overall lead between DeVries and Kane. This has been going on for almost the whole race. Oh, and Kane puts 2 wheels off into the grass once again.
He's really caught up, though. DeVries got held up by some traffic and on the exit turn 3, and he got a really bad exit for that backstretch head into turn 5. So Kane managed to close that in. He starts to lengthen out a little bit as they go through the carousel.
He gets balked by Schuster, though. He was trying to pick which side to go, and Schuster tried to hold the inside, and it looks like Kane did the exact same thing.
And then the yo-yo effect again.
Yeah, it seems to be a little bit of commentator's curse there, and every time we check on it, they're close, and then suddenly something happens. So,
I think it's going to be interesting after the pit stop, see who can gain some time there.
Yeah, that might be the great equalizer, is who is better at pit stops. Not every driver has really had a lot of experience with them, especially if they do official racing. There's not many series that have pit stops, so it's a skill to be learned for sure. So, I believe we were talking about the GTD cars. Let's go back to that battle real quick, because it looks like they're still pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, the traffic is really slowing down Ross Booth here a little bit. They're faster and they're going by him, but what it's doing is ruining his he can't get to the apex, and it's costing him time being passed, even though the cars are faster. They're ruining his racing line. And you can see that Lindsay now back there in car number 103 has really closed up on Booth, and Booth is really trying to hustle it around there. He's got that car in front of him, which is Leif Peterson, yeah.
Yeah, Booth completely outbraked himself heading through the hurry downs there, and that cost him some time. This has allowed Lindsay to really close now as they head through the kink. He is definitely going to have that slipstream pulling him in up to Canada corner. Is he going to go defensive? Looks like Booth takes the normal line. Doesn't have to worry about Lindsay yet. Not close enough to try and outbreak him, but once again, Booth overdriving the car. Just misses the apex. Now there's only a car length between himself and Lindsay. This is for the lead in the GTD class. Booth heading into the final corner. This is going to be oh so critical for him to get a good exit here. Once again, just off the apex. And Paul Lindsay looking nice and tidy. He's got about 3 car lengths between him. Just a bit of a flash on my screen from Booth, possibly having connection problems. but Lindsay not able to close. Looks like there will not be a pass down into turn 1. Still, parrying mistakes out of Booth in the lead. Booth once again having a terrible exit. This is his best opportunity. Lindsay looks to the inside, down into turn 3. He tries to outbrake him. They're about dead even. Loses ground at the apex. Look at Booth carrying the speed around the outside. Both of them getting about the same run coming out of the corner. Just a little bit more speed for Lindsay coming down the outside. Door to door. Up to turn 5. Lindsay is not going to have the apex this time. He's going to have to work hard to outbrake him. Booth going deep. Is he able to stop it in time? Yes, he is. Booth retains that lead after what is only a two-turn battle, I suppose, but it felt like longer than that with that long moraine sweep.
They were side by side. You could have cooked dinner by the time that long straightaway. Man, that was some nice racing, though.
Clean, fair racing from both drivers, and Booth finally has got things together and pulled a little bit of gap, and he's helped a little bit by Armando Edwards. And as soon as I say that, Booth takes the hurry downs quite terribly, you have to admit there, and has allowed Lindsay to catch right up to him. So we understand there's a battle for the lead in GT2. That's Troy Schuster and Kevin Binkley.
And Binkley managed to really catch up. Schuster got held up a little bit by lap traffic from some Cadillacs, so I managed Binkley to get right back on. He's within the draft now, so he was also the faster qualifier as well, so he might be able to make a pass before they go through the pit stops.
Not quite close enough through the hurry downs for him to try and attempt a pass, but now they head through the carousel. Not especially aero-sensitive cars, so they're not going to have to worry about being close to one another like the HBDs might through this long, fast corner. Now accelerating away up through the kink. Let's see how Schuster handles it. Just kisses the apex. Perfect line through there. Same thing with Binkley. Both drivers displaying their skill and why they are up at the front of the pack right now. So it looks like not a lot of action happening in this one. So, Bill, if things start to erupt in GTD, definitely break back in.
No, the distance, they've got a little bit of distance there. I think they decided to cool their jets a little bit. Pit stop's coming up. Maybe they'll decide it there.
The leaders in the Proto class have also closed up. Danny Kane is about a second behind DeVries at this point. They've got a little bit of lap traffic ahead of them now, but in the past lap or so, it's all been clean air, and Kane's managed to close in.
And all this craziness as we see DeVries work his way and Kane work their way past more traffic. That's a caddy of AJ Clark on the outside. We are already halfway through this race, so these guys only have to do this one more time over again, and they are already to the checkered flag. So they're not exactly running out of time, but boy, things are moving very quickly with this many cars on track.
And pit stops should be happening any time now.
Very true. We haven't really seen many people take pit stops except for cars who have run into trouble. So we'll see who tries to utilize that, to maybe get an advantage over the competitor.
Well, Joe, in all four divisions, the first and second drivers are right next to each other. It's good, close racing.
Great to see a battle for the lead in each of them. It's not something that you get often, especially in races as long as 60 minutes.
McGinnison.
So it sounds like we're starting to get pit stops then, Ayrton.
Yeah, second place in the GT3 class.
So we'll see. He had run down who he'd been chasing. He had run down Paquin.
Paquin
yeah. had a big lead. So he had run him down. So we'll see how when pit stops come out, we'll see if McGinnis can jump him in the pits.
And when a driver is gaining time on John Paquin, you know they have got some pace, because Paquin is very much a hot shoe, very highly regarded, known on the forums for this league as someone who really helps other drivers, tends to share sets, and generally is looking for the better of everyone. So he's not just a fast driver, but a very helpful one.
Leaders in Proto and GTD classes in.
That would be Danny Kane and Jason DeVries into their pit stalls. Troy Schuster and Kevin Binkley in the Corvettes. Excuse me, you said GTD?
No, Booth and Lindsay are in.
Ah, okay.
And Binkley and Schuster. Pretty much everyone's coming in.
Everybody. Looks like most people are splitting this right about down the middle. So everybody kind of taking the logical pit strategy here. Take
free first one out in Protos.
Let's see if there's much difference between... Oh, there's actually a huge difference now between himself and Kane. He widened that gap, so De Vries had a very good pit stop.
Yeah, looks like Lindsay and Booth had pretty similar pit stop as well. They stayed about the same distance.
Came out just about in order, and that puts my driver, A.J. Clark, out in front of that division. Of course, he has yet to
Yep, currently seeing him scored the P1 in the GTT class. He's working his way around the carousel. You can see him there. He is racing for WFO Racing with their zombie scheme that they have going on. Some kind of zombie dog with blood splatters on it. So kind of a cool scheme going on with those cars.
Schuster and Binkley stayed very close right outside of the pits.
In fact, it looks like they're just exactly how they came in, which is only a few car lengths apart. They're going to get lapped here by Brian Hawkins in the HBD, and he's got Mark Schindel behind him as well. Those two are actually battling for position 2. But look at Schuster, who has Binkley closing in, but Binkley backs out. Probably, you know, I almost wonder here if Binkley backed out because he saw those HBDs coming up on them.
Yeah, that would be a risky move to go 3 wide in there, especially the HBDs. It's kind of unpredictable to know how deep they're going to go into the corner as well. So a safe bet from Binkley, he can make the pass later on. They still have about 35 minutes left of the race. I mean, 25.
So we've got some information on that pit stop of the P1 leader. Sounds like Danny Kane lost a lot of time on the pit entry. And he was also held up a bit by lappers, we understand.
Yeah, they came, they were a mix of the GTD class. So it was De Vries, and then Booth, and then Kane, and then Lindsay. So they were kind of all mixed up.
So we watch Kane still in P2 overall and in the prototype class. Now coming up on another lapped car from the GT3 cars. So we're hearing we got a battle for P4 here between Hawkins and Mark Schindel. We were watching that as they went by a couple of the GT2 cars, but unfortunately, looks like Schindel has lost ground. In fact, Hawkins got a great exit onto the front stretch and just continues to stretch that gap. You can see on screen Hawkins and that red, white, and black car now coming up to put a lap on Billy Smith II.
I don't think Schindel has pitted either.
So that'll be something we have to watch out for. Let me check that, actually.
Now, Joe, while you're doing that, just a piece of strategy here as Paquin now is coming in the GT3 class. You know, he's driving the McLaren, and it's the only class that has 2 different cars, so it's feasible that maybe the McLaren can go a little farther and doesn't have to take as much gas as the BMW does. Paquin's coming in.
That sounds like a question for Kevin Brown.
Kevin Brown.
Yeah. I was going to say that Mark Schindel did have his pit stop already, so he has been into the pits.
It was on lap 4, though.
Oh, so yes, he had. So he was the one that ran into trouble early on. So we look at Jim McInnes now, currently sitting second in the GT3 cars.
Just trying to hustle that car around before Paquin can come out of the pits. Paquin still sitting in his stall.
Let's see if he can beat him out as we watch McInnes work his way up to that.
Paquin just pulling off of the stall now, still in pit lane.
And it is a long way down and very slow up through here this whole time. His competitor is going to be gaining on him. McInnes
coming out now.
Just getting ahead of him. Where is McInnes? He's a little ways back. So
about the same distance. Those pit stops were about the same between the McLaren and the BMW. Lap in and lap out. Now McInnes has got to run him down.
Yep, 2 seconds between them though. So if he gained on him before, then it's feasible that he could still cut those 2 seconds in the 23 minutes that we have left. He's got time to do it. So let's run down the order of the classes if we've got most people with pit stops. Let me double check on that. Yeah, it sounds like most people have done their stops. So let's run down the order of the classes. I guess maybe we'll try for top 5 of each of them if we can. Jason DeVries is leading overall. Danny Kane currently sitting in second. John Ulmer is in third in the prototypes. Brian Hawkins sitting in fourth, and Mark Jubinski in fifth. What are GT2's top five looking like?
Schuster's leading the way. Binkley is right behind him. Actually, battle going on right now. In third place is Paul Slavonic. In fourth place is Dave Hill, and then in fifth place is Dino Topic.
Meanwhile, in the GT3 cars, John Paquin is leading the way. In fact, he is well amidst most of the GT2 cars. Jim McInnes sitting in second. Robbie Morrison is in third. Sam Boren in fourth. And then fifth is Dylan Francis.
Great battle there between Morrison and Boren right now for third position in that class.
Sorry to interrupt, but Binkley just made a pass on Schuster. He's into the lead in the GT2 class.
Let's see if we can get a replay on that. Looks as our director pulls that one up. Must have been down into turn 5, I have to imagine.
Yeah, Schuster made a little bit of a mistake. Missed the apex in turn 5.
It's so easy to do that, especially when traffic is around you. You're coming down at such a high rate of speed. And, yeah, he was way off the apex there. Advantageous driving from Kevin Binkley.
Oh, he's got another run. Go back live. They're heading into Canada Corner right now.
Yep, we're getting it on our screen now under braking for Canada Corner. Schuster has the inside. He takes the apex. Binkley not giving up. Now he slots in the line back into second place. Trying to hold on. Loses a little bit of ground in the penultimate corner. Now braking for the final turn. This is going to be another case where it's just going to be oh so critical to get that good exit. He's got the slipstream. They are both about dead even, pulling out of the corner. Both of those Corvette engines giving all the grunt they can. Binkley looks to the inside. Now down into the braking of turn 1. Not close enough. Still, this is not over yet. There is about 2/10, 3/10 between these two cars. Not a lot in it, Eric.
Yeah, these guys are definitely very close. Also, the prototype class has gotten very close again. Kane closed that gap from 1.5 seconds in the last lap to probably under a second now. He's right on the rear of DeVries.
And you guys can stay on that race, but also in GTD, it's a great battle between Booth and Lindsay. They're about 5 car lengths behind.
Yeah, let's stay on this one just for now, but Brian Hawkins in the HPD hit Dylan Francis in the McLaren in Canada Corner. That was a while ago, we understand, and they both continued. So down on that backstretch seems to be the area of concern. Go ahead, Bill.
Booth missed an apex, and Lindsay has taken over the lead in GTD, sir.
Going to go to the replay of that. Apologies to those guys that we missed that battle. We're looking at the replay right now. Booth down into the hurry downs. He's missed that apex a lot of times, and this time it really bit him. And now he's thrown away the lead.
Kane's got a run on DeVries.
It is all kicking off now as we go back to the P1 battle. As Kane looks around the outside of turn 5, isn't able to get it done. He takes a little bit of a peek down into turn 6. Both of them turning into the apex, just glancing over the curbs. Kane only a car length behind. Not going to be close enough for the braking of the hurry downs. They've got a car just ahead. That is the Corvette of Dave Hill. Car's trying to go around the outside. Does Kane dare? Yes, he does. Just squeaks around that Corvette and continues on trying to hunt down that lead.
There's also the battle for 4th place in the HPD class. Apparently, Hawkins and Jubinski actually had contact with Canada Corner. Hawkins is now under threat from Matt Quinn, who actually just went on the inside of him.
And they've got Robert Jackman coming through there too. Robert Jackman working his way past Jubinski. That was for position. Jackman now sitting in 6th.
Oh, he's gonna almost spun it.
Jubinski had about inches between his nose and the tail. Oh, and just about runs into the car of Joey Trungale. Whew, that was close for Jackman. Very heads up to try and weave away from that car at the last second. Still, he is all over the back of Jubinski, and we're back to the lead battle. Kane looking around the outside, and Kane is off the track. That is down into turn 1. He manages to keep out of the tire barriers. We're going to go to replay. Too much to keep our eyes on. Let's look at this. He had a good run. He was in the slipstream of DeVries. DeVries holding that inside. Oh, and he has to weave to the outside just to try and miss his competitor there. That was very honorable from Kane to not run into the back of the car in front and take to the runoff there. Let's, oh boy, while all this was going on, Bill, we didn't get to do the top 5 rundown for GTD.
Well, it changed by the time we did it. So now our new leader is Paul Lindsay. Ross Booth in second place. Now AJ Clark has him in sight. He's a ways back in third. Fourth position is going to be Billy Smith. Now, Billy Smith has 2 victories this season. He's done 2 to 2, running in fourth right now. And then Daniel Johnson running out the top 5.
You know, I wonder if Smith started from the back intentionally, or if he just didn't have time to get a lap in. Because remember, he didn't have a qualifying lap.
Didn't have a qualifying time. That's right.
Yeah, he is already up to 4th.
It's not like it's lone qualifying or where you have to get in a clean lap. There's plenty of time to get in a lap. So, yeah, it's a nice run for him.
So, as our attention is being dragged everywhere at once, Schuster still being hassled by Kevin Binkley for that lead. These two have battled before, but still Binkley not able to get Schuster to let go of it. Just an iron clutch.
Yeah, Binkley's still in that draft, but Schuster, I mean, he hasn't gone to win this season. Both wins have been taken by Kevin Binkley so far this season at Daytona Coda, so Schuster definitely looking hungry for this one.
Sounds like Jackman and Hawkins in the HPD class are having a bit of a war of words over the radio. Not sure if they got into each other or what happened there. And Hawkins is missing his nose. So, sounds like there was a spin and then passed Brian Hawkins into turn 5 and then spun off. So
yeah, Robert Jackman was right on the driving line on the exit of turn 5. Hawkins had nowhere to go.
They are extremely heated right now. It's usually considered a little bit of ill form to argue over the radio in the middle of the race, but they're certainly letting each other have it right now. Things we can't repeat on air. Meanwhile, I want to go back to Schuster because he got held up by Paul Lindsay through the kink. And that means Kevin Binkley might have a run. They still have Lindsay just on the inside of Binkley down into Canada Corner. Manages to make the apex, but Schuster does not. He's going to be on the outside on the penultimate corner. They're going to go side by side. This is a very fast crest. Both managing to hold onto it. Look at Binkley, though, just carrying the speed a little bit better. Manages to hold on to that first place. Fantastic opportunistic move from Kevin Binkley. It is not over yet. Did not get a good exit out of the final corner. Troy Schuster pulling him in down the front stretch. Is he going to look to the inside? He does. Binkley does not defend. Who is going to have it? They're side by side into the braking. Binkley just slightly ahead. He starts to lose ground around the outside. Schuster gets it back once again. Just cannot hold onto that spot every time he gets a chance at it.
He's going to have to draft for the straight.
Let's see if he takes a move. I wonder if he's playing a strategic game. If he thinks he can draft and snipe him at the end of this race, possibly. Doesn't seem like the Corvettes have had that sort of opportunity.
Well, he got bad exit out of that corner, managed to still close in, so I think it's definitely an opportunity. Turn 5 will be the best passing opportunity.
Maybe he wants to be behind him.
Yeah, we got to give a shout out now to Robbie Morrison and Sam Bowen. These guys have been going at it all race, and we just haven't been able to get it on screen. You see Bowen there in that citrus and black colored car. Citrus colors, all those yellow and green colors. That might be Bowen right behind him.
That's a good catch-all there, Bill.
Good strategy for those of us who are colorblind. Morrison, these guys have been going at it.
I'm sorry, we've got a big wreck. It sounds like Woloshin is involved. Woloshin? Sheldon Woloshin. I'm going to look and see if I can figure out what happened there. How long? Oh, it's not too long ago. That was in the kink. Maybe about 60 seconds ago.
He got hit by Scott Ford.
And I think Ford was one of the ones that hit the caddy earlier on.
No, actually it was Robert Jackman.
Was it Jackman? Oh, and Jackman was the one that was in trouble before. Yeah, that was Jackman. You're right. We can't find the replays, unfortunately, but Woloshin was... His roof hit the wall, if that tells you how violent of a wreck this was. His day is hugely compromised. I'm not sure if he still has a spare car. If not, his race is done. If he does, he's just going to be sitting in the pits for quite a while.
Yeah, Jackman just went a little too fast and just nudged the rear right to the kink. That's how careful these HPDs have to be with passing these guys. One little touch can just send them off into the wall.
I don't know if they have a steward or a IRT crew, but I wouldn't want to be on that team for this race. And it's just never over for the P1 lead, or for the prototype lead. Danny Kane is gaining ground on our leader, Jason DeVries, yet again. He's chopped about 2 seconds off the lead since we last looked at him.
And DeVries just keeps on getting really bad luck with this traffic. Thankfully, the track's a little clearer ahead, but I mean, in just a few corners, he can be held up by another Cadillac or something. It's really unpredictable.
Yeah, he was trying to get by a lapped HPD. That was Mark Schindel that he was working his way past. You can see in the blue, gray, and green machine there in between them right now. Let's see if he manages to hold up Danny Kane. If so, that's going to put them kind of back to where they were. Kane looking to the inside. He's coming from a long way back. Schindel sees him coming and lets him on through. Good driving from Schindel there.
So to confirm the question about passing on the outside, yes, they can do it.
We've seen it a lot, but we're going back to Boren and Morrison and the GT3s. Bill, what's going on there?
Oh, they're still going at it. These guys have been dogging each other for the last 20 minutes. And just to follow up on one point, if I can get this in with all the action, we talked about the fuel mileage for the McLaren versus the BMW there. And the McLaren probably burns a little faster, but it has a bigger tank. So all things being equal, they have 60% gas. Of my fourth grade math, theory of transitivity, 60% of big and small is the same. So I don't think there's a big fuel difference between the two cars as you're watching Boren and Morrison still going at it. And one more thing to follow up on the GTD class. Billy Smith, we talked about maybe sandbagging, not getting that qualifying time in. His fastest lap is a half a second faster than the leaders of his class. So he is definitely on the move.
Well, another car on the move right now is Morrison. He is right up on the back of Boren as they head down the Moraine sweep. Let's see if Morrison decides to try and make a move. Is he going to peek out? Or is he going to stay in line? Oh, he's bump drafting, actually. That's a brave move. Braking now for turn 5. I think Morrison's doing exactly what we were talking about with the Corvettes earlier. I think he's just holding station until it's later in the race.
You know, family and friends who have been watching this, who went to the track to see them, they've been putting on a show for most of the race.
Morrison currently in P3, or excuse me, P4. But the gap for the prototypes is under a second.
As DeVries got held up a little bit from that Corvette.
Yeah, that's Sklenka. Oh, and Sklenka loses it into the wall for Robert. We're going to get a replay. That was unfortunate, but he just put 2 wheels off. We'll see it. That was Robert Sklenka just ahead of them. You can see in the replay here.
Imagine if he spun the other way around.
That's what I was worried. I think he corrected the car at the last second. Oh, if we watched on board with Danny Kane, and I think he's going to have to change his pants because that Corvette just started to weave in front of him at the last second. Just jerked away to the other wall. Poor Danny Kane has now lost a little bit of ground, and he's losing even more ground with a Corvette in front of him.
Oh, prototype leaders went past the GT2 leaders. Now Kevin Binkley is going on the outside of the final turn. Get to run, though, on the front stretch.
We're on it right now. Oh, and they've got the HPD of Mark Schindel. He doesn't know what to do here. He's backing off. He doesn't want to get mixed in. Or does he? He's trying to split the 2 of them. He's going to be able to brake much later. Still, Schuster and Binkley side by side. And now they're gaining on the GT3 car of Matt Owens. So he's going to be in the way in a moment. Binkley still hassling him. Right on the back of Owens. gets a good run, just a little bit of a draft, has to weave out of the way. Going to be able to blast past him down this main straight. Binkley gaining ground, not going to be close enough, I don't think, down by turn 5, though.
Well, that's what multi-class racing is all about. They're passing the leaders are passing slower cars. Man, that's exciting.
And Schuster was slower into the corner, but Binkley didn't even bother with the apex, so that allows him to get right up on that back bumper. Now they've got the car of Robbie Morrison, that battle we were watching earlier. He causes Troy Schuster to have to check up through the kink into the kettle, or to the hurry downs. Binkley closing under braking, being extremely patient though, doesn't try to send it up the inside. Schuster thinking about going around the inside of Morrison through the carousel, but backs out of it. Holding station now. Now they're going to come up on the kink. This is going to be tricky. Is he going to look to the inside? No, he doesn't. And this whole time, Binkley has not tried to take advantage. I am pretty sure at this point that Binkley is just playing the waiting game as he goes around the outside of Morrison there, down into the braking. Going to get a little bit compromised into Canada corner.
I feel like it's a risky move waiting for the last lap, because if you don't get the run that you want, you've lost it all.
Yeah, and especially with all this traffic, I would think that Binkley maybe would try to seize the opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive and extend a gap. So, it is never over up at the front. Battle for P1 has erupted once again. Danny Kane now within just a few car lengths. You can see on your screen, DeVries cannot shake him. Now, Bill, you were talking about the winners for the season. Has DeVries won yet?
DeVries has won at Daytona.
That's right. That close finish. In fact, it was between Kane and DeVries, I believe, in that .000 distance between the cars at the finish at Daytona. Whoa, look at... Wow! Christopher Sherburne really had his head up, because Danny Kane came from about 10 car lengths back and somehow passed him through the inside just to try and hold on to DeVries there. That was gutsy.
Yeah, so similar to Schuster, Kane also has won a race.
Jackman, once again, action in the kink. Let's look at the replay here. And it looks like another HBD was trying to squeeze through. He got held up. What happened? Oh! And he ran into... Who is that? It was a Cadillac and an HBD. I'm not sure. Let's see if we can...
That was Brett Trozen in the Cadillac.
Oof. I don't think Jackman's going to have very many friends by the end of this race. That was an unfortunate situation, and I have to admit, Ayrton, that it's very easy when you're focusing on the car ahead, especially if he was on if that was for position for that HBD, to forget where that car next to you is.
Yeah, and you have to be aware of the speed differential. I mean, the HPD Cadillac differential is the biggest of all the cars, so he should be expecting that he's closing up that quickly through that kink.
We have less than 5 minutes on the clock. This 60-minute race is almost over already. So guys have about 3 laps to go here.
I think we should give a little bit of screen time to Billy Smith, running in 27th position right now. He's really close to A.J. Clark. Gonna try to see if he can get a podium. He's been running these guys down from the very back. Great run for Billy Smith.
He is 4th in class right now, and he is the green and black machine on your screen. A.J. Clark currently, let me see what the gap is between these guys, about 3.5 seconds between them.
Yeah, but he's been gobbling them up. So it's gonna, I don't know if he can get there in 5 minutes, but it's gonna be close. I just thought he deserved a little shout out there for a nice run done. He's a 2-time winner.
Absolutely. He has definitely put the work in coming around here, seeing what he could do from the back of the pack. We'll have to maybe get him in for an interview after the race, see if he intentionally didn't qualify, or for that was just something where he didn't have the time to get in there. So let's find ourselves a battle, because it seems like we're never short of them. GT2 lead apparently is still close, as Troy Schuster still has Kevin Binkley close behind him.
Actually, prototype lead Kane got a run through the kink. He's going to go to the outside DeVries as they head up to Canada corner.
And he's not close enough. with DeVries holding that inside line, just going defensive. Now they've got the car of David Fernandez just ahead of them. They're going to catch him here through this final corner. Fernandez pulls left, but this allows Danny Kane to really get back up on his rear bumper. He's going to have a bit of a slipstream coming down the main straight, but just not close enough to gain. Story of the race. Every time they get close, we go to them, and then something happens. Great underbraking from Danny Kane, though. Really closes ground. Goes a little bit off. Dips his wheels into the dirt just slightly. Now braking for turn 3. Holding station. Nobody gains, nobody loses. Now they're on the Moraine sweep. Danny Kane trying to reel in our leader of Jason DeVries. He's been battling this entire race with him. I believe he started in 3rd position. Yes, he did.
Yeah,
Started in 3rd. John Ulmer was 2nd. Ulmer slipped back to 3rd. Has not been able to regain it during this entire race. They've got more traffic in front. This time, it's Kyle Pitson. Pitson holding up debris. Oh! Danny Kane gets spun. Just clipped him. We're going to look at the replay here. He might have clipped him on his suspension too. Let's see how that car handles when we go back to him. But this was heading into turn 7. It was ever so close. I don't blame him. This is sort of one that he had to take. He went for the apex. Just cut it a little bit close. Heartbreak for him after so close at the end and be able to challenge for the lead. I think that's his opportunity lost unless something catastrophic happens to our leader of Jason DeVries. So let's jump back to the GT2 lead here.
Kevin Binkley still pressuring Schuster. They're behind another Corvette lap car. That's Christopher Sherbin right ahead of them.
We're hearing that Sklenka was off in Canada corner, so he's been having some problems. So we see Schuster coming up the lap, Christopher Sherbin. This is the same class, so it's a little bit tougher when you've got a car that's exactly like yours that you're trying to put a lap on. He slows and lets them both by. Go ahead, Bill.
Stay on that race, but Ross Booth is caught up to Paul Lindsay.
Schuster makes a
Big
mistake.
mistake from Schuster. He's got the inside into the penultimate corner. I feel like we've seen this before. He doesn't make the same mistake this time, and Binkley actually puts 2 tires off as he runs out of road. He's still going to hold on to the back of him. If he wants to do something, he's going to have to do it now. Binkley has the draft down the front stretch. He got forced off. Is he going to want to take revenge? Try and slip to the inside into turn 1 and force him outside.
Last lap.
White flag is out. Schuster goes defensive, holds Binkley off. They're trying to put a lap on, that looks like Danny Kane, so Kane must be damaged if they are going faster than him.
He just
unfortunately, he pitted apparently. Unfortunately, Binkley lost just a little bit of time in that. I don't think he's going to be close enough. I'll have to keep an eye on our leader just in case he comes to the line soon here. Binkley definitely not close enough to try and draft him, so there was possibly his opportunity to try and make that pass.
There's lap traffic ahead, though.
They've got Armando Edwards in an HPD and Kurt Gross in a Cadillac. And we're hearing that the leader is in Canada corner. Jason DeVries has only a few corners to go. Let's jump over to him as we see him now on screen. It hasn't been a completely race without nerves for Jason DeVries, as he got hassled for it for most of the race. But today, what's important is he comes home with a significant gap as DeVries takes win number 2 and round 3 of the AMG Sports Car Challenge. Let's jump back to GT2. Troy Schuster still holding on to that lead. Binkley was not close enough to try and get a draft here down into Canada corner. They've got Armando Edwards still ahead of him. He must be slightly slow because he hasn't been able to lose these guys. This could come into effect here. Is he going to pull over and let them through? One more corner for Troy Schuster. Just has to get a good exit out of this corner. He manages to get it. Troy Schuster is going to come home with the win here at Road America. And the GT2 class, well fought, well won from Troy, and a second place goes to Kevin Binkley in the GT2. Meanwhile, John Paquin did finish while we weren't looking in. He won, and the GT3 class is the GTD car is still out there. And it sounds like Lindsay is our leader, Paul Lindsay. He had passed Ross Booth earlier on. He's still very close. Booth is not letting him go, but they've got David Sockrider between them. Not going to have an opportunity unless it's a bad exit. Oh, it looks like he might. Oh. He's gaining on him. This could be it for Booth. Is he going to snipe him at the line? I don't think he's got enough. And it's going to go to Lindsay with less than a tenth, I have to imagine, between those two cars. Great battle in multiple classes.
And just behind them, we didn't get on camera, but Billy Smith did run down A.J. Clark, and Smith got a podium. Nice job, Smith.
Incredible stuff. Great battles throughout the race in every single class. Whew, we need to give our vocal cords a rest after that one. We are going to go to break. Stick around and watch the screen because we do have information on upcoming races that are going to be broadcast on GSRC. We'll also have driver interviews and the unofficial results, so don't go away. Welcome back to Road America. We just witnessed round 3 of the AMG Sports Car Challenge, and boy, was it an action-packed race. We said up top that we probably are going to have plenty of it, and we were not disappointed. In the end, though, Jason DeVries managed to hold off all the competition and take home win number 2. John Ulmer, despite some problems, managed to finish second. Danny Kane had a late race incident, lapping another car, and finished third. Mark Jabinski came home in fourth, with Matt Quinn in fifth. Mark Schindel finished in sixth, with Mark Kudrowski in seventh, David Sockrider in eighth, and Scott Ford in ninth. Ayrton.
And then in 10th place was Troy Schuster, first of the GT2 class. Kevin Binkley finished close behind in second, then Paul Slavonic in third. Dave Hill finished in fourth place, and then Dino Topic in fifth. Kyle Pitts in sixth place, and then David Henry in seventh, and then goes to our GT3 class.
Yeah, we'll go to the GT3, or one of these down. John Paquin brought that McLaren all the way in, and then behind him was Christopher Sherburne, but that, of course, that was the GT2 class. Jim McGinnis came in second. Sam Bourne was third in his class. Fourth was Robbie Morrison. Fifth place was Larry Ford. If I continue on in that class, Leif Peterson brought it in fifth. David Fernandez was sixth in class. We go down a little bit farther. Joey Trungle was seventh. Sidney Thomas eighth. Matt Owens ninth. Darren Kuhn in 10th. And I believe we have a few more left. Dylan Francis came in 11th, and rounding out in the dozen spot, David Hernandez in that class. Joe?
And the GTD cars, the Cadillacs, Paul Lindsay managed to come home with the win. Ross Booth was in second. It was ever so close between them. Then Billy Smith, the second, finished in third, with A.J. Clark in fourth. Fifth was Daniel Johnson, followed by Dale Green in sixth, Brandon Postma in seventh, and Tan Nguyen in eighth. Ninth was Kurt Gross, and rounding out the field of the GTD cars was Brett Trozen. He finished 42nd overall, so he actually wasn't dead last. So at least a little bit of some consolation for him. We do have some interviews. First up, unfortunately, we don't have our winner in the prototypes, but we do have second place, and that was John Ulmer. Let's bring him in. John, it didn't seem to go quite the way you wanted. You had an early mistake, and we understand maybe a couple more a little later down the line, but it sounds like you got a little bit lucky to get on that second spot on the podium.
Yeah, unfortunate for Danny. I didn't really want to take the position that way, but hey, in the end, I need the points. And it's just, I made the same mistake three times in the same exact spot. I made a last-second change in my front ride height so I could try to slipstream on Jason, and I didn't consider the draft that the Cadillacs cause. And right there in the carousel, 3 different times, every time right behind the Cadillac, I lost all front grip and had to just drive off the track to keep from crashing.
What was traffic like in these prototypes? Because it certainly seemed frantic from our view, and we had to keep our eyes on just about everywhere on track.
It was wild for sure, because I don't know how many passes a lap we're making, but it seemed like a dozen, and they're all racing, so we're trying not to interrupt them as much as we can. We're trying to race, and it got really frantic for me because I started chipping away a little bit of time, and I was trying to get back to at least have a shot at the front guys, and then started making some crazy decisions in traffic. But at the end, the traffic was great. It's just it's 36 decisions a second.
Yeah, well, commiserations on not being able to get the win. You've got 2 poles under your name out of these 3 races so far. So hopefully at some point the pace is going to manage to bring you up to that top spot. Will we see you again at the next race?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I won the last race at COTA.
Oh, excuse me.
Jason wasn't there for that one, so it was basically a fight with me and Danny. But those 2 guys they just don't make any mistakes. They're just consistent. It's like racing against a computer lap after lap.
Certainly was exciting for us. But well, thanks for coming and talking to us, and we will see you at the next round.
Thank you.
Up next, Ayrton is going to be talking to Troy Schuster, I believe, or no, Kevin Binkley, actually. Kevin Binkley, second place finisher. Once again, we don't have our top finisher. So, guys, come talk to us after the race if you won. We want to talk to you. Ayrton?
Thanks, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Well, congratulations on a second place finish, but it might have been not what you wanted since beforehand you had gotten wins so far this season.
Yeah, it was it was a tough race, but it was a very enjoyable one.
Yeah, it was definitely very exciting for us in the booth to watch. You took up half the broadcast for sure. But one of the things that we were talking about was what your strategy was going to be at the end of the race. Since obviously the draft was very effective on those long straights heading into turn 5 and turn 1, were you planning on trying to stick behind and wait until the last lap, similar to Daytona strategy, and get that snipe, or were you trying to get ahead earlier on?
No, I just, from the front straight, which was your best opportunity, the Corvette on a Corvette doesn't have that much of a draft, so I wasn't going to be able to get around him by the start-finish line. By turn 1, maybe, so I knew it wasn't going to be a last lap situation. But yeah, my car was really good on the short runs. Right after pit road, when the tires were still good, it was great, but it would really start falling off, and I just couldn't get around Troy no matter what I did. And I knew near the end of the race it was going to come down to lap traffic if I could get an upper hand that way. And I really thought that on the white flag lap that I was going to have my opportunity, but unfortunately I was on the outside and he had the preferred line, and I just wasn't able to get around him and make it happen.
Yeah, definitely a disappointing event on that first corner of that last lap when I think it was HPD of Danny Kane came out right on the inside of you heading into that first corner. What do you think the effect is with being the second fastest car in this with the multi-class race, and yours being passed by faster cars, but also trying to pass these slower cars at the same time?
Yeah, just good situational awareness. I mean, you've got to, especially as close as Troy and I were the entire race long, you've got to be focused on the race first and foremost, but also seeing the closing rate of other cars, checking your mirrors as often as you can, but, not checking your mirrors before your turn so you don't miss your braking point. There's a lot going on. You've got to really be vigilant, but also, like I said, really pay attention to the race that, you're trying to win for sure. It's tough.
Well, congratulations once again on second place. Thanks for talking to us, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Joe.
We've got our first winner here to talk to us, and that is in the GT3 class, and that would be John Paquin. And John, I'm starting to think that you just like coming up and talking to us in the booth, and that's the reason you're winning so much.
Hey, yeah, I do like you guys. How are you?
You certainly made it look easy from your end. Your class was about the only one that didn't seem to really have a battle for the lead going on constantly, although you were getting caught. Were you just taking easy towards the middle of the race, or were you getting held up by traffic, or how did you get caught by McInnes there?
Well, the Corvettes actually in the beginning were actually slowing us down. I had no way to pass them. They got too much horsepower. But the first 3 or 4 laps, and I believe Jim was slowing down too, actually. He was very patient behind me. But then lap 4 or 5, I could start stretching it out a little bit, and I got a few seconds up on him. But yeah, my race was boring in comparison to the other ones. Once I got that 3 or 4 second gap, I didn't have too many wild situations at all, just kind of by myself hot lapping.
Absolutely. I believe the next round is VIR, and that's going to be even more interesting if you guys have as large of a field as you have here. Are you looking forward to the traffic, or are you loathing
Does it sound like it? Does it sound like it? That's going to be tough. You've run it. It's 40 cars, 50 cars, whatever happened. Yeah, and I'm not really good at that track, so that's going to be very interesting for me. That's probably going to be survival there.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Congratulations on a pretty dominant win here today.
Oh, thank you, guys. Pleasure having you guys on board, too. I was looking forward to seeing you guys broadcasting.
Same here. Glad to have you back racing with us. All right, we do have one more to go, and that would be another of our GT3 cars. Unfortunately, we didn't get any of our GTD drivers, so I believe Bill is going to talk to Robbie Morrison.
Robbie Morrison, you hear me?
I'm here.
Okay, we had 47 cars entered. 45 of them would have crashed. We still could have put on a show with you and Sam Bourne. Boy, you guys were at it seemed like the whole race.
Yeah, Sam and I really went at it for a while there. It seemed
He was right on my bumper, and I made one mistake, and he got around me. But I was right on his bumper most of the time until we got split up by some of the faster cars to come around.
Tell me about dealing with traffic. You know, in your class, there was one section we were watching the race. You had prototypes coming up behind you to make the pass. You guys were gaining on the Cadillacs all on the straightaway. The traffic must have been pretty eventful, huh?
Well, technically we're the slower class. Other than the Cadillacs, I didn't have much traffic issues other than cars that were damaged or were just off pace. It was the cars that were catching up to us so fast that you really had to pay attention to because they were coming in groups of 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's. I know it's tough. You let the one guy, but they come in sets, and it's hard to do. Hey, well, congratulations on a 4th place finish. Good luck at VIR at the next event, and good luck towards the team championship as well.
Thank you,
Joe.
Whew, this it's going to be interesting having to do this every other week pretty much in this series with just everything going on at once, and we are going to have to really be on our toes, but we love seeing all the action. Before we go, though, we want to thank a few people, obviously thanks to the official sponsor of this series, the Autobahn Motorcar Group. Also thanks to John Ulmer, the organizer. We have to give thanks to iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio-Technica, Behringer, and AverMedia. They are the software and the hardware that we use to make these broadcasts possible. Thanks to the team today. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. So thanks goes out to Dougie Beard, who creates all the camera sets for the Global Sim Racing channel, and a special thank you to Eric Ekholm, whose music is not only found here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and even Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric where you heard it on Twitter at Eric Ekholm. That's with 2 Ks. Additional thanks to Casey Lalonde, who also provides us with the music for our broadcast. You can find more of his music at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com, and that's all his albums you can find there for sale. Our next race in this series is going to be at Virginia International Raceway. That'll be Monday, June 1st at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. We also have some other series, as we mentioned, that you saw during the break. They're going to be up on screen here, and they are going to be coming up. Great stuff to see in series such as Bootleg Racing Series and the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series. All great stuff from all different walks of racing. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.